England's glorious history has been steeped in ambition, greed, treachery, and betrayal. Its castle walls have witnessed centuries of bloodshed. The anguished wails of the forlorn still echo through the corridors. Cut off by tragic death, these restless spirits have been trapped in limbo between heaven and hell. They have become the castle ghosts of England. Do you believe in ghosts? I do. Ever since at the age of 6, I ran panting downstairs and said there was a grey lady standing silent outside my bedroom door. I'm not alone. 40% of the English believe in ghosts, and 1 in 7 people claims to have seen one. Spirits continue to haunt us from the dim recesses of a darker history. Manifestations of the paranormal have many names in Britain. Wraiths, spunkies, chagrins, church grims, hags of the dribble. From the ancient druids to Dickens' A Christmas Carol, spirits have been a palpable presence in the English landscape. On the west coast of England's remote Cumbrian region stands Manchester Castle, where 2 bloody murders triggered a series of strange events that cannot be explained. This rugged and beautiful landscape has echoed to the gruesome cries of the inhabitants of Manchester Castle. Its walls loom over the treacherous quicksands of the River Esk in the valley below. Today the castle is plagued by eerie hauntings, odd happenings, and disturbing manifestations. The present owner of the castle is Patrick Gordon Duff Pennington. There have been Penningtons here in this castle, I know, since the early 13th century. Do you think that the spirits, the manifestations, the spectres, give the family special attention?
I don't know. I like to think that they feel that we belong, and we like to feel that we belong to them a bit.
What kind of hauntings have people experienced here?
Sometimes when I open the doors and open the shutters in the mornings, people pull the doors out of my hand. The last curator, he used to see a grey lady walking up and down the red passage outside our room. The tapestry room, people have slept in there and have asked to be moved. They hear people cry when they feel cold. They think it's a nasty place to be in, and the people who feel anything at all, they come out not quite the same as they went in.
Residents and guests of the castle also report the distinct sound of thumping on the stairs. Evidence of paranormal occurrences was so strong at Manchester Castle that the family called in a team of specialists to investigate. On September the 18th, 1993, the experts set up an array of monitoring equipment for a scientific study of the hauntings. They waited for nightfall. At 10:40 p.m., the investigators felt the temperature drop dramatically. A minute later, a vase began shaking. Then a loud thud was heard, followed by 3 raps. The investigators noticed a movement past the door. The team observed so many unexplained events that they reported it is hard to come to any conclusion other than that Muncaster Castle is inhabited by supernatural energies. Not a few of the supernatural happenings have been attributed to a malevolent spirit that inhabits the castle. And in Muncaster's long story, there's no more malevolent character to judge by events than Thomas Skelton. He was the last jester or fool to the Penningtons. He was known as Tom Fool and was responsible for the phrase tomfoolery. He was also a steward of the estate. He was a trusted servant of his masters and a tyrant to those beneath him. He's said to have known Shakespeare, indeed, to have been the model for King Lear's fool. Malicious, vicious, witty, and cruel. No one could play a trick more thoroughly than Tom Skelton. He loved to sit under a chestnut tree near the castle and wait for passers-by seeking directions. Those he didn't like, he'd send to their deaths in the quicksands below. In 1585, a scandal broke around the daughter of the castle lord. Helwise Pennington earned her name as a fiery, passionate and fatally headstrong young lady. Although betrothed to the son of a powerful neighbouring family, Helwise fell in love with the village carpenter. But their encounters were not to remain secret. When word reached Helwise's father, Sir William, he sought out Tom Skelton, meeting him here under what became known as Thomas's tree. He told him to put an end to the scandalous affair. Skelton summoned the carpenter to the castle under the pretence that he was to meet his beloved Helwise. Once there, he plied the carpenter with cider until he was drunk and insensible. Then Skelton used the carpenter's own tools, a mallet and broad chisel, to hack off the young man's head. He was heard to say, "When the lazy dolt wakes up, he'll have trouble finding his head." Always one to please his master, Skelton presented Helwise's father with the young carpenter's head. History does not record Sir William's reaction.
I thought it was rather silly, the story, but then, when we'd been here a little while, we used to work terribly hard, started in the office at 6 in the morning, and after tea, I would walk across the hall sometimes, and there were footsteps used to follow me.
You don't think it could possibly have been an echo?
No, I've tried that out. No, it wasn't. And I've tried it with sort of shoes that didn't make a noise, but I always heard the behind me.
The thumping heard in the hallways could well be the sound of Skelton dragging the young carpenter's body through the castle. And the mournful crying? Could it be Hellwise weeping over her murdered lover? Afterwards, the heartbroken Hellwise disappeared into a nunnery and eventually went mad. As for Thomas Skelton, he never paid for his crime, but fate has a way of meting out justice. He drowned in the River Esk. Is Manchester still haunted by the presence of Tom Fool, waiting to play one last trick? "200 years later, these dark waters were to claim more lives and give rise to another apparition. One that prefers this road leading to Manchester Castle.
Good morning.
Grace Simmons, an employee of the castle, has seen the ghost.
It'll be about October in 1985 that I've been out for a night and coming back up the road, driving up the road with my husband, and just come around the corner and I saw this lady standing. She was leaning against the wall. And she seemed in distress, so I said to my husband, would you stop and I'll get out the car and go back and make sure she's all right. And yeah, we went back. When I got back to the corner, she'd gone.
The woman in white began appearing after a gruesome murder in 1822. Love seems to be ill-fated at Manchester Castle. Mary Bragg, a servant in a nearby village, was madly in love with the castle's steward, but the housekeeper, a Miss Littledell, had taken a fancy to the same man. One night her jealousy turned to rage. Two ruffians appeared at Mary's door. Concocting a lie, they claimed her beloved had fallen ill and she must rush to him. Alarmed, Mary went with the two men. She never made it to her lover's side. Near a tree on the road through Manchester Wood, the abductors pulled Mary Bragg from the carriage. A pistol was rammed into her mouth. But poor Mary's body had more indignities to suffer. To get rid of it, the murderers left it in a field for the castle dogs to devour. When that failed, they tried to find a hiding place. They hoped the waters of the River Esk would do their dirty work. But Mary Bragg's body refused to stay hidden. Months later, it was found washed up, further downriver, badly decomposed. At the coroner's inquest, a doctor claimed it was impossible to determine the cause of death. Some say he'd been bribed to cover up the murder. But those involved with Mary Bragg's murder did not escape their fates. They met with bizarre ends. One of her assassins went insane, another was hanged as a highway robber. Mary's rival, Miss Littledale, who had hired the killers, became the subject of rumor and suspicion. Eventually, she was banished to a remote village where she was shunned as a murderess. The doctor at the inquest drowned in the River Esk, not 100 yards from where Mary's body had been dumped. In 1993, the tree under which Mary Bragg died was cut down. The timber was reputed to be cursed. Blood began to ooze from the cut logs. No one locally would have anything to do with the wood. It had to be shipped to London to be sold. The apparition of the woman in a long white dress was seen on the very spot where the tree stood. Brutally murdered and mistreated in death, could it be that Mary Bragg still wanders in search of justice? Feels very calm.
But this is where most of the castle hauntings are taking place.
Can you account for that?
Well, I put it down to our Katie,
Who's Katie?
Queen Catherine Parr.
And this is her. Catherine Parr was a striking figure. Nearly 6 feet tall, with auburn hair. She was intelligent and artistic, a lover of music and poetry. She is famous for being Henry VIII's sixth and last wife. Catherine Parr managed to keep her head and outlive him. Catherine always had a passion for this man, Thomas Seymour. He was handsome, selfish, a buccaneer, a political adventurer. He was determined to be near the crown. After Henry VIII died in 1547, Seymour proposed to his daughter, Princess Elizabeth. When she refused, he turned to the king's widow, Catherine. They were married later the same year and came to live here at Sudeley. Within months, Catherine was pregnant. At the age of 35, it must have seemed a miracle, and everyone in the castle prepared for the birth with excitement and celebration. Sudeley's great banquet hall echoed with parties, music, dancing, and laughter. Then tragedy struck. Gloom silenced the castle. Catherine gave birth to a baby girl named Mary, but a week later Catherine died from a fever. Mother and infant daughter were forever separated. But the tragedy did not end there. With Catherine barely dead, Thomas Seymour abandoned his newborn daughter and headed for London. Thomas Seymour went straight to Princess Elizabeth's bedroom and proposed to her for the second time. And the 15-year-old had the good sense to turn him down again. Undeterred, off he went and asked her half-sister Mary. She too turned him down. Thomas Seymour's lust for power in the end was to prove his undoing. Indeed, he was beheaded for treason. And when he died, Princess Elizabeth wrote, "This day died a man of much wit and very little judgment." Catherine was buried in the chapel at Sudeley in 1550. During civil war a century later, the chapel was ransacked. Her casket disappeared. 140 years later, a local farmer digging in the grounds came across a casket sealed in lead. He forced it open, and what he saw astonished him. The body of a woman, perfectly preserved, her complexion still milky white, her hair auburn. But within seconds the corpse started to wither and turn to dust, and the terrified man hastily reburied the casket. It wasn't until a century later, when this new chapel was built, that Catherine Parr was finally entombed in a manner befitting a Queen of England. Apparently, Catherine Parr's spirit was not to rest. Margaret Parker, who's worked here at the castle for 23 years, is the latest witness to the Queen's return.
Must be about 9 years ago. In the middle of winter, the castle was all locked up, and it was just 5 girls and myself cleaning. And it was an artist upstairs in Catherine Parr's room painting.
Knowing the woman artist was about, Margaret Parker wasn't surprised when she saw a figure standing in the window.
Morning.
But the artist had only just come down from the nursery. Did she frighten you?
No. Well, I don't think the dead can hurt you, can it?
Unlike some ghosts, the former queen is a melancholy spirit who keeps to herself. But for those who live and work here, she's become a friend.
Night-night, Katie.
After Catherine's death, her daughter Mary mysteriously disappeared from history. No one knows what became of the unfortunate little orphan. Four centuries later, are these two tragic souls seeking reunion?